compelling detective story, a cloak and dagger action, and a romantic drama, all these stories were taken from real life. The history of Kazakhstan is inseparable from the world history. Reflections on history, our version.
The Lost Diaries. Yellow leaves were rustling under the carriage wheels. September came into the town. The young man was only 21. He had important reports from Central Asia and a 15-kilogram gold bullion. Nobody could imagine that that little hotel would be his last shelter. Having felt an acute pain in his intestine, Kirilov stopped at Arzamas and called a doctor. 2 days later, he died from stomach inflammation. He died in a really unexpected manner. The 2 days resulted in a century and a half of guesses. Both gold bullion and the materials disappeared. What had happened to the little sleepy hotel? Was it a murder, just a sudden death, or a spy story? On leaving Sari Arka, his assistant Kirilov died mysteriously. What in the world was Atkinson doing in Kazakhstan?
And I don't believe that this man is capable of a murder.
Chapter 1. Unknown Circumstances. Most likely Karelin, who was an officer and scientist, and a student, Kirilov, met in St. Petersburg. Grigory Silich was 40, while Ivan was only 19. But the age difference did not pose any obstacles to their friendship or work. I'm taking a young man with me and ask you to accept him as your son. He is an orphan and a passionate botanist. Studying at St. Petersburg University, I will take him with me to Siberia, and I hope he will be my insistent and enlightened friend. Although he is like a bashful girl, he is intelligent. The Karelins lived in Orenburg and accepted Ivan gladly. He became a family member for the mummy and daddy and sisters. He is the most diligent and intelligent among the students I have known in this world. Karelin said about his adopted son, he explored Tarbakatai, Simirechi, Zaysan, Altyn Yamul, and Karelinsk together with him. He absorbed ore deposits, described animals and lakes, and diapase, which was a kind of opaque green emerald. His adopted son, Ivan, went to St. Petersburg carrying research materials, quite detailed maps, and in particular he had a gold nugget found on the Altyn Yamul Pass. He was full of energy when he left Orenburg. He had to deliver the documents and visit his adoptive mother, Karelin's wife, who had moved to Moscow due to health problems. He was in a hurry but did not reach his destination. Ivan's ultimately death plunged Karelin into despair, and he was in Semipalatinsk. When my father found out about Kirilov's death, he was overcome with grief and despair. He banged his head against the wall, got ill, and hardly managed to continue living after Ivan's death. The disappearance of the important materials struck another blow. Grigory Silich had not taken a risk of sending them by mail. He said that his letters were opened there. Chapter 2. Botanists Undercover. Now I am dreadfully worried about the documents and some items sent with the late Ivan. He had 7 notebooks describing our journey. It is followed by the description of some plants, including some things found not far away from the Chinese city Guljar. However, those items were not named. This doesn't leave you with any impression that Karelin was afraid of something or probably was afraid of his relative's life. He tried to combine his completely scientific research with intelligence activities that we can name in a modern way. There is another strange thing. Kirilov lying in the coffin. The portrait was painted with oils and was stored in the Karelin's family. It is not known where it is now.
Его гроб, оказывается.
Nobody knew the foreigner who painted him in the coffin. When the man who had made sketches left the town, all the materials Kirilov had been taken to St. Petersburg, including the nugget, disappeared too.
Исчезает этот самородок.
It was not either the first or the last case when researchers of Central Asia died in mysterious circumstances. They disappeared without a trace, and their diaries did too. It means that they were killed in hotels. It was like a secret war. It was a secret war between Britain and Russia. 2 years before the incident occurred, Officer Abbott and another English officer, Richard Shakespeare, were detained in the Kazakh steppes and then exiled from Russia. There were a lot of British spies, or at least those suspected of being spies, in Central Asia. One of the most famous was an artist called Thomas William Atkinson. The fact that William Atkinson's routes very often coincided with the earlier journeys made by brave Karelin and his adopted son Ivan across steppes and towns of Kazakhstan is really conspicuous. They said that Atkinson stayed at the same hotel as the disappearance of the diaries are connected with Atkinson's presence and Ivan's death.
Not capable of killing a person. Impossible. He's a very gentle man.
It is quite possible that Atkinson knew about Karelin's journeys but did not kill Ivan for a simple reason. Ivan died in September 1842 while Atkinson crossed the border of the Russian Empire in 1846. In this case, how could the English adventurer find out about Karelin's route description? So who was the murderer? Perhaps somebody hired a hitman? Chapter 3: The Mysterious Portrait. Grigory Karelin served as a special assignment official in the Ministry of Finance. His post posed big obstacles for the Western Siberia Governor-General, Gorchakov. Karelin could send a memo negatively describing the Governor-General's activity to the Minister of Internal Affairs. Probably it was among the disappeared documents. The land is in decline in trading, industrial and other respects. Especially it refers to the main authorities' administration. Inattention and bias are astonishingly strange. The Governor-General is not interested in what is happening on the other side of the Irtysh River. The officials rarely suspect those who pay occasional visits for non-mercenary reasons. However, killing in order to steal the report seems absurd. Anyway, it was sent again. Probably there were documents Karelin did not have, and only the original of them could play an important part. Incidentally, in 1845, Gorchakov sent Karelin away from Semipalatinsk and soon welcomed the foreign guest. He welcomed Atkinson warmly. Thus, it seems that there could be not a secret agreement. However, I don't think Gorchakov could really work for a British intelligence service. Maybe Prince Gorchakov or somebody from people who were surrounded with told Atkinson the route of Karelin's expeditions in a friendly way or for some other unknown reasons. However, there also is another viewpoint, according to which Atkinson was not a spy. Atkinson was not involved in these missions at all. He was among the European travellers who were attracted by the idea of visiting unknown places and finding out about these areas. They only desired to travel and looked for adventures. Probably robbery was the motive behind Ivan's death. According to Markov, the student died because of the gold he was carrying. In 1841, Karelin wrote in a report to the Minister of Finance that there were some signs indicating the presence of gold deposits in the Targ-Bakatai area. Nevertheless, later Karelin made no attempt to organize a search party. After all, it isn't clear who was there. Most likely this person was Ivan Kirilov, a student traveling together with him. They researched the Targ-Bakatai area too. Kirilov could make the description of the gold deposits on his own, and Karelin did not have this description. It was like a treasure map, which could be a strong reason for the murder too. When Leslie Urquhart gained access and concessions for mining gold and copper deposits, and in general working in Kazakhstan in 1918 to 1920, it was surprising that his requirements coincided with Atkinson's maps and descriptions. Moreover, we could not forget that Karelin's expeditions were made near the Chinese border. In this regard, Markov, the writer, mentioned Thomas Atkinson's journey too. The details of the British guest presence in Guljar remained unknown, but soon Russian authorities in East Siberia made a conclusion that Atkinson muddied the waters in the Ili River. He incited the Manchu people to oppose the Russians. It turns out there was an extensive British intelligence network in Central Asia. Its main activities were aimed at undermining the stability in the region. I don't think that this foreigner appeared there by chance. According to the governor of Arzamas, Kirilov felt bad on the way. Could anybody follow him? Besides an intelligence Tungus servant, there was nothing said about the fellow travelers. It was not mentioned who else stayed in the hotel either. Only the mysterious artist knew that Kirilov hurried to his mother. They said that he has painted the portrait for her. Probably it was a pretext for getting access to the diaries and nugget. Why did the unknown artist draw Kirilov's body lying in the coffin? You know, probably it was done in order to provide the client who had assigned the certain task to him with the proof. There is another version according to which the young scientist died from cholera. It was mentioned in some British sources, but how could they know about it? The fact that his materials, gold bullion, and part of his money disappeared is an unpleasant but quite prosaic matter. Anyway, Thomas Atkinson's name remained in this story and must be connected with this occurrence.
This story, we have to ask, when did this story first appear? Nobody knows.
Of course, all these facts could just be a coincidence of unfortunate circumstances, since there were too many of them in Karelin's life. Epilogue: the final blow. 10 years passed from when that event occurred. A middle-aged man wearing glasses and constantly smoking his pipe moved to the outskirts of a little town. Grigory Silich moved to a place situated somewhere on the outskirts of Guryev, but the exact location was not known. He intended to spend only about 2 years in the town, but actually spent 2 decades there. He left Moscow and dedicated all his time to processing the data collected during multiple journeys. Before leaving, he deposited his rich collections, including samples of Asian minerals, in the strong rooms of the Moscow Cathedral of Christ. In the mineral collection, there were 180 samples of golden nuggets, which could include the Altan Yamel gold. Karelin wrote 2 volumes about Bashkir, 3 volumes describing hikes in the Kazakh steppe, and 3 books about journeys to the eastern borders of China. But he did not hurry to publish any of them. They took him 2 decades of continuous work, then misfortune struck. When he was going to go to St. Petersburg to demonstrate the results of his research, which consisted of 11 volumes of reports, to the Academy of Sciences, a fire broke out by accident in his house. All of the documents disappeared. Probably it was an unfortunate incident again, but many researchers do not believe this is true. Taking into account the interest Britain showed in our areas, I find it difficult to believe in such an accident. Most likely it was necessary to get rid of unwanted witnesses and people who knew too much. Grigory Silich could not overcome this shock and died after a while. Incidentally, all the collection deposited by Karelin disappeared too.